Wilson County Commissioners Court is now back in session again for a workshop. First will be for the development plans. She's getting me a copy of that. We'll wait till she comes back out so she can address us. This is a workshop, folks. We don't have public comments.
I didn't bring what you brought last time.
Gary, is that what you were looking for?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so but you can make copies of that so everybody can look at it.
Okay.
Is this one, Jim, is the rate of application?
No, that was gonna be in the pavement design.
Okay, all right,
If we don't do that, then we don't need that.
okay, all right. Just check.
Wilson, you want to go ahead and take the podium and let's, I'm sorry? Let's, whatever your changes
I've got
you
those.
made notice to, let's go through each one of those.
Mr. Pordola probably needs to go over this one.
Sorry?
Did you want to go over this one that you had?
We will, we all have copies of it here.
Yes.
Can, start there, that's fine.
That'll be fine.
So Commissioner Pordola at the last workshop had concerns with the chip seal, fog seal. Do you want to go over what your proposal was on that?
Well, we're having a lot of trouble with the chip seal, with the developer, not developers, but the construction people or home builders damaging the roads before the county ever takes them. So that's one of the reasons we're wanting to up the construction bond or letter of credit to 2 years. I understand Guadalupe County is now going to 3 years. They're at 2 years and fixing to go to 3 years. So that's one thing I'd like to see happen here in this workshop is let's go to a 2-year, because we're having a lot of damage to the chip seal roads. And then also in this same paper, it outlines that that bond would be for the amount of $5 per square yard of pavement, guaranteeing the work and the warranties of the pavement. And then also, there's a sample down here at the bottom that shows that a mile of new subdivision road, excluding cul-de-sacs, would require a $70,400 maintenance bond or letter of credit for a 2-year period, and then it has a compilation formula to arrive at that dollar amount. So I think that we need to add that into our regulations as well, so there's no question about how we arrive at that figure. Does anyone have any other comments on that particular page?
No, but why did they go from 2 to 3 years? Have you, any Guadalupe? What was their reasoning?
Well, yeah, I mean, I talked to the county engineer over there, and so, because I was asking him about this, because the other thing that was there, or other part of that question was, or the comment Commissioner Perdola made was that in their deed restrictions, they stated that the builder or whoever was going to be responsible for repairs to the road. And so I asked him about that. And the issue is that that is something the developers have done on their own. I don't feel that we can make that a requirement to tell them to put the deed restrictions. They don't. And Ms. Huron, if you have any comments on that, we'll take them. But, and because they're experiencing the same problems we are. And so this is from Guadalupe County. And like I said, they currently have 2 years. He said it has helped, but they're still having problems. And so that's why they're looking at going to 3 years.
If they haven't gone to 3 years, they're thinking about it.
No, they're thinking about it, yeah.
But they still allow chip seal, right?
That I don't know the right answer to.
Well, yes, I know they do, because
Okay.
they did a subdivision in Marion over there with chip seal.
But on the road
Okay,
construction.
well, before we leave, so, I mean, unless, yeah, I think we need to add this to the appropriate location. Whatever, and Ms. Huron can help if she likes the language or not, see if it's okay.
2-year, yeah, the 2-year credit is, 2-year construction bond is fine. I don't know if you have it in a certain, what section you would have it in. Do you have a certain section here?
There's a section in
On the letter of credit.
yeah, there's a section in the regulations that talk about the bonds and letters of credit.
I also found something where we had one subdivision that they had problems with the roads, and they adjusted the bond after the 2 years for another year. They subtracted so much from the original bond amount and revised the amount. So I guess we've been doing that already.
Revised.
Well,
Fine. I mean, this is fine.
Yeah, I think that was, that was a unique situation, I think. But, yeah, I think that's something we can still do currently. If the roads are still getting beat up, tore up, or having issues, we can certainly go back and require the extension of the bond, right, or the letter of credit.
Well, like in Cibolo Ridge, we went in and figured what the repairs that needed to be at that time would cost. So we released the developer's majority of the bond at that time, but kept back the amount that it would take to make the repairs.
Right, and and there is no deduction in this as time goes on. This would be a bond in that amount for that 2-year, or letter of credit for that 2-year period.
That's fine, and you can also review on a case-by-case basis if there's a certain project that's going to require more or more regulation, then that can be reviewed by the committee and then later adopted by something more or something less. Done on a case-by-case later on. This,
Okay.
We're gonna add this into the appropriate space in the regulations.
Okay. Then the road base and road construction inspections. And the Exhibit D. I know there was supposed to be some changes to Exhibit D. Did that get corrected?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
But what was the original depth on that? 20?
Actually, it was 19, but,
So what are we,
well,
That's-
Judge, we decided that we weren't going to have a minimum standard. It was, all of them were going to be required to have a geotechnical design.
Yeah,
So there is no more, there will be no more minimum standard.
okay.
Everything will have to have a geotechnical design.
we're looking at number 11 on our notes that we had for that meeting, correct? Okay, all right. Are we good with that?
Shoe.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Aiken?
Yes, but that sheet that you have right there, right, where did that come from?
Those are the notes.
Those are
from
the
last
notes from the
meeting.
last meeting, yeah.
Subdivision regulation workshop notes.
from the last meeting.
Did you want a copy? I think I,
I don't have that.
okay. Here, I got him one right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then does that mean the scour and all that's going away too?
Where are you at?
I'm reading Perdola's notes first.
Oh, okay. I don't have those.
Okay.
This one here? Just gave it to you.
No, we have that.
Got that, and then we got subdivision regulation workshop notes, but it's only two we have.
We wouldn't need to do a scour analysis if they're gonna do an engineered, geotechnical.
The scour analysis is part of the downstream analysis. Talking about two different things here.
Okay,
What does the note say? That you're reading from? Read it out loud, that's what.
we'll just start from yours then. I was going over Perdola's notes that he had first, because we had that. So, the page 23, the minimum drainage size that requires analysis, they were wanting to use Sarah's maps or utilizing an alternate method for smaller areas. I thought we all agreed that that should be looked at.
Okay, yeah. So the question was, let's see, let me find the right paragraph here.
Come on.
So it says a drainage analysis which includes design calculations for all facilities within a subdivision, including drainage culvert location and sizing, and an analysis of upstream and downstream impact on adjacent properties, showing that the development has no impact on the water discharge from the property based on the 100-year flood. And so then it was item A, the 100-year storm inundation analysis, and we've got several things that were required there. So the question was, and help me if I get it wrong, was in the absence of Sarah mapping, could we look at a smaller, what was it? You were looking at, you wanted to define the drainage area size.
Right, the situation we run into a lot of the times was where we might have a 5-acre internal drainage area. We're doing a 100-year inundation analysis of that area is not applicable. Right, it's more intended to big drainage areas that run through a project. But we were trying to determine, could we determine maybe a minimum watershed that would trigger doing a 100-year inundation analysis?
Yeah, I believe we have talked about that in the past, actually.
I think you suggested 25 acres, I think, last time, if I remember right. Is that,
I think it was 100 acres for the inundation analysis.
okay.
Well, and Commissioner Martin, when we discussed it, you brought up a good point. A lot of this was suggested back before FEMA had some better updated maps and things like that. Now that the FEMA maps are more being revised and utilized, you're getting some better floodplain analysis versus doing 100-year inundation analysis maybe internally when you've got smaller drainage areas.
Yeah, and I guess those maps, to my knowledge, won't be adopted until later this year?
No, 2025, 2026.
When did that change?
We had a meeting with Sarah last week, and she said that she turns everything over on the 30th of September, and then it goes into
Into the FEMA process? Oh, my goodness, because then they're 2 years behind, because it was supposed to have been approved this fall. So, okay, so we have a problem. We can use the inner maps, I mean, the information's out there, I guess.
she gave me all the panels, and I've given
Okay,
it
yeah,
to them.
yeah, that's what I say, we have the information, the question is how do we apply it in that regard? And, I mean, the only problem that I have with sometimes defining a specific small area is just from the standpoint that may or may not work for all locations. But I think, I don't see a reason why you couldn't propose something that's specific to your subdivision, subject to their review, and just using good engineering practice. Do you see any problem with that, Doug?
I have no problem with it.
So we could reword, we'll have to figure out which paragraph, wherever it talks about the drainage area.
Number 3 on 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I don't know, maybe this covers it. The 100-year storm event inundation analysis shall be prepared, sealed, and signed by a professional engineer currently registered in the state of Texas, shall be reviewed and accepted by the county engineer. That'll give you enough latitude? Because it does say, it says, provide an engineering analysis showing those areas within the platted area that are subject to stormwater inundation during the 100-year storm event. So if you've got it, you've got it. If you don't, you don't.
Like, if you don't give a minimum acreage, that would be okay, but, in particular, what we're talking about, let's just say you have, 4 different drainage areas, one of the drainage areas is over 100, inundation analysis would need to be done for that particular drainage area, but nothing that's sub 100, like on-site. Right now, it seems like it's just one of them that triggers it off-site, it's every single sub-drainage area is getting that 100 inundation analysis, just because it has one drainage area that is over the 100 acre area. That makes sense.
Yep.
For example, we wouldn't want to do a 100-year inundation analysis of the parking lot outside. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah,
you could-
no, I agree.
You could narrow it down to every small detail where the intent is big runoff areas that could have that FEMA floodplain level to it that may not have been mapped. It's those big watersheds with big flows where we're trying to keep structures and lots and things out of those areas. That's why we thought defining a minimum area would be helpful. So. And usually my mind kind of went to 100 because that's where some jurisdictions will draw the line at, rational method versus SES. So it kind of seemed like it was a common size area that triggers even a different type of analysis. So. Or, I mean, it could be just, during a preliminary planning meeting even. Leave it up to the discussion at a preliminary planning meeting, what's necessary or not. That could be discussed between the county and the engineer and design engineer.
I think it could be done on a case-by-case basis kind of thing.
Or you kind
Yeah.
of just hash it out up front and let it print.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's kind of vary between location to location because, I mean, some subdivisions are less than 100 acres.
But they may have more than 100 acres of runoff.
Well, that's true. The drainage area that it impacts may be larger than that. But also, I mean, back to Russell's point, it's critical, I guess, when one of those 100 acres passes through another drainage area. And that's all we're just trying to do is just make sure that, nothing. And I think the regulation, maybe as it stands, sits there as long as we have an understand. Y'all just want to understand what you need to do and what you don't have to do. And I think I think the only thing we need to address is how do we, you know what, we could add to that inundation analysis paragraph that you submit a preliminary, just a sheet showing the drainage areas and which ones you plan to do that? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Frank. Because we don't currently have a requirement in there for a pre-planning meeting, so that may or may not be a benefit. I mean, I think. Yeah, because I guess it doesn't really have to be a sit-down meeting, just something that kind of gives a short summary of what's going on, what you're going to do. Here's how we plan to proceed, if there's any big comments. But I think,
Fly out of the site with,
yeah, I mean, I think it could be done by email.
and if a meeting is needed, we can always reach out to each other and set something up.
We'll just add some language that says you submit a preliminary plan for approval.
Okay, so then we had the 25-year storm to match the bar ditch design requirement.
Yeah, I think we all agreed on that one.
Okay, let's say that a little louder on.
Yes, please.
We agreed to do the 25-year storm to match the bar ditch design requirement.
Yes.
So, and then changing the word from recommended to required in the definition, or on page 12, for the county, to meet with the county commissioner. Also to add the note on the USPS requirements on mailbox installation. So that's gonna be done. And looking at adding the bond requirement for wastewater treatment facilities. Also consider penalties like the assessment of liquidated damages.
I think you combined two there.
We're looking at number 6, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, but you jumped over 5.
Yeah, but we already talked about 5.
Discussed the five.
Oh, earlier,
That two-year warranty bond.
yeah. I didn't have the sheet yet.
Sorry, Scott. So,
And where this comes in on number 6 is, there was no bond requirement out in Lake Valley. And that thing sat out there for I don't know how many years, unfinished. County didn't have a bond on it, and the people walked. And that project sat there for years. And we had houses out there that was supposed to have sewer, didn't have a sewer plant completed. It turned into a huge mess, so we don't ever want to get in that situation again, so that's where that's coming from.
What type of bond amount would it be in?
Whatever that project would cost, we would need to have a bond to cover that cost of that, building that facility, where if people walked off, we'd have money to hire another company to come in and complete the project.
it's like, I guess the big question that I have is, in the past, we required bonds, but then we went to letter credits, but letter credits expire and have to be renewed. So what is our course of action if we allowed a letter of credit instead of a bond? Because obviously the letter of credit's less expensive. What's our recourse in this particular case if there had been a letter of credit and they just didn't renew it and then they left?
Well, I guess you could always file legal action against the developer, but the bond is probably the strongest that the county has to be able to recoup or get that project finished. Letter of credits, they're not, they're more just promises in writing. Anybody can pull out of them unless there's really no, it's substantially rely on it, I mean, to the extent of a bond. So, I mean, you have to take legal action if the credit is not renewed, or there's a problem later on with the credit. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't be relying too heavily on letters of credit.
I would like to see a bond
Strong
required
projects.
on the wastewater treatment plant. I think that would be a lot.
Didn't they go insolvent during construction and that's why it never got completed? And then they couldn't find anybody to go in and complete it because there
We
was
had
too much money
people
against
living
it.
out there in homes that they were having to hire vacuum trucks to come and
Get
haul
rid of
sewer
waste.
off, yeah.
And letters of credit don't have a lot of restrictions, or they don't have a lot of detail that would cause the credit, or to call on the credit, whereas bonds do. I mean, they have very specific, detailed requirements, so that you can always go back and get that money to help finish the project or whatever you need to do.
I get, and the bond ought to be equal to the cost estimate to construct those facilities. Now, the thing is, since that's not anything that's owned by the county, that's not included in the subdivision development cost estimate. So we would have to add language in there that says that they have to provide us with the cost estimate to do that in a bond at the full amount.
On that note,
Point. I mean, I was thinking through that too, because the county would not be taking over ownership or operating that sewer plant. So then that kind of makes it complicated on how you guys can cash in on those bonds. So I think you have to think through.
Well, it's not for us to cash in, it's just to make sure that the facility gets finished.
To perform the services.
Right,
To
yeah.
make sure it's built, but that just gets a little weird since usually a CCN or there's an entity set up through TCQ to operate those sewer plants, so.
Yeah.
I would just think through as you write that up. I mean, I agree, if somebody's gonna put a sewer facility in, and you're gonna approve a plat based on that to have these lots have sewer service, it doesn't hurt to cover, the county have a way to, you know, force somebody into doing that if they said they're gonna do it. It just gets weird because it's not a county, the county doesn't own it.
Right, right.
The issue would be if we did cash in on the bond and complete the process with somebody, who does it go to then? Does it go to an HOA? Does it go to, right, where do the operations of it? I mean,
Wasn't it like the one that they just want to do out there, if the state approves it, then they'd have to get a bond? Like the one they want to do out there on 181?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not 100% sure on how these are set up. You know, I've never been involved in that. Most of the things operated by a city or something at that point. But I know through the TCQ side for approval of these, there's probably some assurances done on the developer side to the state as well nowadays. You say you're gonna build this sewer facility and operate a system, I'm sure there's some financial guarantees probably made on that side of things too. That's, I'm not familiar, but we probably should.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but, I mean, the long story short is, you know, if I wanted to do a development, me as a developer, I could go out there and put in a package plant, get my permit, put my plan in, and alls I gotta do is hire, you know, Joe that has the appropriate operating license to operate it. And I just pay him whatever he wants to charge me every month to make sure that it's operating right, turn the reports in and all that good stuff. So, but my assumption would be that sometimes it would be the developer that's doing it, sometimes it might be a PUD or a PID or a MUD or something else. And so then it becomes different. Because if it's a developer, okay, then we've got one individual, but if it's one of those other development techniques, then it would be the responsibility of that utility district or that improvement district to do that. So, and the county attorney had to step out, but I'm thinking off the top of my head that we just word it so that it's in the person's or entity's name that's responsible for constructing it.
The project that Don was talking about, that sewer, I've seen some paperwork come in through TCEQ that they're gonna have a hearing. So I don't know, I'm still learning this process about that part of it. So do they go to TCEQ first before they come to us through the permit process?
Yes.
And if they don't clear then,
Then they don't.
And I guess they can't do the
But-
sewage
But
plant.
all's TCEQ is giving them the authority to construct that infrastructure. That's all they're
Palestine
giving them. They're just telling them that it meets all the rules of the state and the feds, of which Texas has authority to do that. So that, and that's all they're doing.
now does the developer bring us the results of that, or does TCEQ bring that to us, to the permit?
No, it would go to the developer because he's the one
And
that.
that's on our checklist, that would be part of it.
Yeah, we're watching it. They haven't come here yet. Is that HK?
Yeah, no, they haven't came to us yet.
Did,
We had that talk with,
Just saw
Mr.
this.
Frazier.
just saw this morning that they are asking for public hearing on September the 27th. Posted it in Wilson County News. So they posted it for public hearing, so.
It doesn't say where, it just says something about a Zoom connection, it doesn't say a location on it. Now, let me see what you got on.
Thank you, sir. I think it was just a Zoom. It says join Zoom meeting via computer. It's gonna be a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, there's people that don't know how to use Zoom, if that's the only connection they have for a hearing? We'll give it back to you in a second. Take a look at it. Okay. So we settled on the bond for that, right, correct?
Yes.
On that?
Yes.
Scott, you want to see it?
We just gotta be smart
We'll
about the
probably
language of
have to
who it goes
get the county attorney to come up with the language
Okay.
for that item.
Then we decided to change the dense lots development size from a size to 1 acre from a half an acre. So we needed to do. I guess number 9 we don't need to do since we're doing the geotech, or?
Frank, what would you normally expect to see in the pavement design? Would they have all their application rates and everything, or what's TxDOT spec? Or do we need to clarify that, what they need to turn in with their pavement design?
Actually talk to her about that. We're gonna put the verbiage together for you, and it's gonna be similar to, and y'all are right too, it did have lower easels for that, but I ran the numbers, and guess what? Same thickness. So anyway, I'm just letting y'all know. And I'm not saying we're going that route. We're gonna stick with what we wanna do. We're gonna put the variables in there, the things that we're gonna provide, Wilson County's gonna provide, is the easel value, and then we got some of the parameters that go in there in the program. The only thing y'all gonna have is the geotech information that goes in there. Yes, sir.
And one quick question, would it be possible to do something similar to what Bear
Bear
County
County.
and Atascosa does?
Oh, Atascosa? I haven't seen Atascosa.
Flexible pavement design criteria.
Yes.
I know you've got a couple things in the
That's-
regs.
yeah.
But when it gets to a geotech designing it, they're gonna want all kinds of different options and stuff, and if you could put something like that together, it'd be great.
That's what we're gonna do.
Okay,
We're gonna use that as the format.
let's start.
Yeah.
Start. Okay, thank you.
Frank, don't run away, because I guess, in that discussion, y'all asked last time about allowing GeoGrid, because it isn't allowed in the current standard. Is that something y'all really want to do?
I think it's a good option. I would say a lot of the smaller subdivisions, they're gonna lean to wanna do the GeoGrid option, because it's just easier for the contractor to install, and it's less messy than having to do a lime slurry or a lime treated mix, right? It doesn't, and it also depends on the cost at the time versus what lime's going for and what GeoGrid costs. I think it'd be, if the geotech could come up with a GeoGrid in lieu of lime solution,
We're not gonna go with in lieu of, don't go there. That's what the city of San Antonio and Bear County used. We're gonna have math backing up. There's a program that can be used to back that up. And we're not gonna, I think where you're going is you're using it as a stabilizer for the subgrade, right? You're not looking at it reducing the thickness in there.
What I mean by in lieu of is instead of lime.
That's in
can
lieu
they
of.
provide calculations that support GeoGrid, get you the same structural number and back.
I've gone around in circles with City of San Antonio and Bear County about this. We're open, I'm gonna, y'all trusting me on this? Okay, we're open to the use of grids. However, we're gonna make sure there's math behind it.
Correct.
Okay.
I would agree with you.
I'm not gonna go in there and just say in lieu of, there will be no, just, we're gonna substitute 6 inches of lime or 8 inches of lime, stabilized subgrade. And the other thing is when we do the lime, you're gonna notice this too, when you're doing that deal, there's more to it than just the PI. There's pH, there's a strength test, and there's also a swell PBR test that goes with that. So your geotechs need to know that. I'm gonna give them just specifics as to do this stuff.
Usually those handouts are really nice to give the geotech. And I agree, in some situations, we've had, if 6 inches of lime stabilized subgrade is not used, the geotech option sometimes increases the base section. So it needs to have the calculations, just, could it be an option if the geotech engineers can prove up it works? So,
Usually, the good geotechs will give you those options in their report.
right,
Ask them for it. That's all I say.
okay.
Okay, and we'll review it and give y'all approval or not.
Yeah, and I would recommend that if we're gonna allow GeoGrid, then the developer needs to pay for 100% inspection and make sure it gets installed correctly. That's been the biggest challenge that we've had with GeoGrid. If you know what you're doing, it's not a bad thing, but it's gotta be installed according to the manufacturer's instruction, because that's what all the calculations are based on. And if we're gonna allow that, then we need a method to be able to ensure that that's the case. So I guess just, when you write your GeoGrid stuff, just include that in there.
Yeah, I'll note in there that we're looking for lap, we're looking for how tight that is on there. We don't want to just have little piles of base spread out there to hold the grid down. That's how I seen it done, and that's wrong. That's not what the manufacturer says, okay?
Thank you, Frank.
I guess the last thing we had was just to add to the definitions about the county engineer. And we'll put that in there. Unless you guys have something else, that's all I had.
What about Jeff's other notes? Were they covered on those items?
They were all on the road stuff, so we went with the geotech, so I guess these are all moot points.
Some of the stuff I have is about fog seal and stuff, but if the road's gonna be engineered, well then,
There was one question or one thing I think that I thought of after we had talked about I believe you were saying the bond would be $5 per square yard of pavement, would be the proposed performance bond or warranty bond. That was one of the first items you talked about. I just want to make sure that's clear, that's the paved width, right? You know how you have a 2 foot or a.
Yeah, if you look at the calculation,
Paved width, not the entire
it's the
base.
paved width, yeah.
Just when we calculate that, want a definition to make sure it's clear on that.
and that's gonna be in the regulations. It's, 1 mile would require $70,400 maintenance bond or letter of credit for a period of 2 years. And the compilation would be 5,280 feet times 24 feet wide equals a square feet divided by 9, gives you square yards times $5, comes up with 70,400. So that
Yeah.
24 foot width.
Yeah, the other item that we had was Mr. Rose had suggested last time about if we don't have if we're doing a development on a county road and we don't have the full 70-foot normal easement width, requiring the developers to provide that difference between whatever 70-foot width would be there on their half from the center line, so it'll be 35 foot back from the center line of the road. And I personally have 2 subdivisions where that's going on right now, where that would be beneficial to us. So. Yeah. But we don't have it codified, so I think we should.
Okay.
The other thing I had in here was about the fees. Did we,
Well, yeah, well, let's talk, I mean, is that, do y'all agree with that?
70-foot easement, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So are these like on the county roads you're talking about mostly?
Huh?
County roads that aren't 70 feet wide?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Commissioners, that conclude our notes.
I
What
think-
were you
I
talking
think-
about a while ago, Jeff?
Jeff had one
You
other
have a-
question.
One of the ones on the back of your notes, just talk
You were talking about fees?
about fees, yeah.
fees, yeah.
Oh, variance. We have 5 variances this month.
Like, the variance request has only been $100 for many, many years. I think it needs to be increased to maybe $250 or whatever we decide.
Jeff, what page are you on?
He's got it on his.
No, it's just on the fees. He was just thinking that.
We have a
they-
separate fee schedule for that. Right? That's the one we approved last year? Right?
The variances didn't change, though. The fee on the variances did not change. They've always been $100. But like I said, we just got 5 so far this month. And we're getting way too many variances.
I think,
And they take a lot of work, so.
yeah, let's see, y'all have your development committee review meeting before the next commissioners court, right?
Tuesday? Next
Yeah.
Tuesday, yeah.
Why don't you look at that and discuss that now? I mean, any of the other fees that need to be changed, so we can bring that to court
Okay.
too, for that whole, I mean, this is the time of year that we're looking at all the fees, so.
Okay. Okay, is that it?
Commissioners, y'all have any other items to bring up on?
I think, good.
Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute breaks, allow people to go to the bathroom, then we'll jump into the next workshop on the EOC.